Hello right bags, it's Jade. Welcome to another survival games news video. Today on the Axis Show we're taking another look at Atlas. I've been showing you guys slowly over the last few months how Atlas has been improving with its updates, adding a whole host of content. By now it's pretty much a disclaimer that I have to say, despite their horrible launch, it does look like the Atlas devs really are trying to turn this game into something more formidable and something more enjoyable for a lot of players. You can disagree with me and you can still hold them memes and them pictures of the launch with streamers being upset, but you have to look at where a game is right now, and Atlas is heading in a very good direction in my opinion. So much so I'm probably going to be starting a let's play very soon. Today encapsulates all the big changes they're trying to put into their big mega patch number 3, which hopefully will be launching this time in July. So the devs have actually issued a big thank you to all the players. Does look like Atlas is receiving a little bit more love on Steam reviews as well. While it's got some way to go before it makes its overall review score something positive or even just something general or mixed, the actual players that have been playing it in the last 30 days have rated it at 67% as positive, which gives it a mixed overall. So, players who are playing the game right now are enjoying it. The majority are so anyway. Now I'm going to get on with what I really am excited about and the changes they're making to non-dedicated servers. You might have seen my little test run of single player the other day. I showed you guys what it might be like if you decide to play this game single player, but that had no non-dedicated functionality. You couldn't invite any of your friends into your game or your world. It was simply just single player. Well, it looks like they're expanding on that. They are going to have it just like Ark Survival Evolved. You're going to be able to have up to 8 of your friends join you. So 8 players maximum on a server. Similar to single player, the host will be able to make use of the host settings UI to adjust server settings to your group's needs, as well as additional enhancements in your ini files. We expect to have this game mode available next week, the week of July the 14th. And their brand new Wild Pirate Encampments beta towards the end of the month. This may seem like a bit of a basic to some people, but don't forget, Atlas is meant to be a massively multiplayer online game. It's not even meant to have a single player or a non-dedicated player based game in it. Does this mean they're crawling back on what they want the game to be? I don't necessarily think so. I think they're just actually responding to what people want and realising that a game like Atlas probably needs good ways that you can get into the game without jumping straight into official. Previously, the only way you can play with your friends is by renting out servers, and to do so, to experience every type of landmass, every type of island, it's incredibly expensive renting from providers. You can switch out tile sets, but it's still a bit of a complicated affair as well. So this is the perfect answer. Now, is it going to have a big dome or a tether? Probably. I think on PC you can adjust the tether so it's pretty big, but you are going to start running into performance issues. But nevertheless, for a crew of people, for friends, you want to jump on a ship together, run around, it's going to be pretty cool that you'll be able to do that with your friends now. And I think it's the perfect training for jumping into the official servers, where I do believe in the long term, the future lies still for Atlas. It's going to be where you're going to have the most intrigue, the most fun, whether it's PvP or now PvE. PvE has been pretty lackluster. It's always been the case for games like these. Ark, Conan, you name it. Lots of these games really should be played in a PvP player-based mentality. That's not to say you can't enjoy it in PvE, but a lot of the times you're fighting against static creatures or you have to really go out looking for trouble. That's where other players come into it. It adds a little bit more spice, a little bit more excitement. Atlas is obviously focused on PvP because of the nature of what you can do. Sailing around to different islands, taking on other enemies' bases and raiding them, and obviously stealing their resources. It's kind of what this game for me is geared towards. But not everyone wants to play like that, and not everyone does enjoy that game mode. So what they're doing is adding Wild Pirate Encampments, basically NPC pirates that will actually be required to take out if you want to settle a brand new island. These NPCs are going to be available for single player, non-dedicated multiplayer and unofficial dedicated servers optionally, before maybe going on to the full official network in the future. Wild Pirate Encampments are collections of NPC characters, defensive fleets and fortifications which inhabit claimable islands. They'll have varying weapons, melee and range, defences, various cannons, turret types and living pre-built forts. They'll also have AI ships representing all 4 classes, sloop through to galleon, patrolling the shorelines of their islands. The placement of encampments will be randomised along the islands, and they can also include inland encampments without ships. You'll have to explore an island to discover all the encampments which inhabit it, and the number can vary based on the island size, with larger islands having bigger and more encampments. Each region will also have a WPE level visible to players, some being higher than others, resulting in better loot but a more challenging task. In order to claim the islands, pathfinders must destroy the WPE that currently live on it. This includes their patrolling ships and any enemy NPC within range of the encampment centre. Players will be able to use the encampment claim flag to reveal nearby enemy NPCs. After claiming an encampment, all encampment structures transfer to the new settlement owner and an encampment loot box will be spawned. Once defeated, an encampment will never respawn and you cannot unclaim an encampment. However, if the encampment has not been fully defeated, it will reset to full strength if sufficient time has transpired without it being rendered. That's pretty big stuff. One of the biggest features that a lot of players have asked for in Ark Survival Evolved has been NPCs. And for very much the same reason, PvE just does get a little bit old. Ark and other games that have creatures and thralls or tames like Conan Exiles, it becomes this sort of game of Pokemon where you're going out just to capture them. You don't really ever feel like it's that much of a challenge, unless you're doing maybe the big boss fights at the end. Sure, some dinosaurs in Ark are pretty hard to get hold of or tame, but once you've worked out how to build a few traps, it all becomes a little bit too much routine. So the idea of having NPCs in a game like Ark, or in this case Atlas, is pretty big. And I think it suits the game perfectly, since the game isn't really focused on taming lots of creatures. It is more about the resources that you can get from other players, or now in this instance from NPCs. Getting special loot from clearing out a whole pirate area, that'll be pretty cool. And with the idea that some of these islands are going to be harder than others, it really will be a case of mapping out exactly what route you can take across the seas if you're taking a journey, what islands might be easier or harder to take along, and trying to live off the loot and the resources that you're getting as you're going through. Now, it does have some negatives that I'm seeing. This idea that they won't ever respawn again. Obviously, if you make a island yours, especially in single player or non-dedicated, you don't necessarily want to be hearing a signal saying your island is now not yours. But then again, that could bode well for people that want longevity in the game, playing it just on their own or with their friends. Having a warning pop up saying that you're going to be invaded in a few days by a pirate encampment, that could be pretty interesting, that you'd have to think about getting back to that spot and defending against any attackers. So I hope that maybe they go into that a little bit more detail in the future. That really would make this game something you could definitely play and not have to worry about always having to join official servers. But maybe that's why they won't add it, because they want players to feel that experience of maybe getting raided in the future. Of course, the other worry is that some of these big islands are going to be hard or difficult to find some of the NPC creatures or characters. If one gets glitched or stuck in a rock, you might have a hard time of actually clearing an island out. But that's something we'll have to just test. They may have had a good way to do it. So, players will have the option to disable WPE entirely via the host settings UI or scale the difficulty of encampments. This will not affect the loot quality. If you decide to enable WPE on an official dedicated server, please note that encampments will only spawn and can respawn on unsettled islands when no player tamed structures are nearby at all over a long period of time. So there you go, that answers pretty much one of my fears earlier, that they will respawn. So if you do decide that you want more of a challenge, or maybe you've got an outpost that you're not bothered about, if you let that despawn, eventually that island may possibly respawn the pirate settlements. And islands can only have claim flags placed on it when no encampments are present on the island, indicated on the HUD when the system is enabled. With the implementation of this toggleable content, we'll be nerfing the traversal capability on gliders on non-dedicated multiplayer and single player, with an option to use the original values in non-dedicated multiplayer. That's pretty interesting. I guess they want to stop you being able to basically use a glider to go from island to island, which is what a lot of people are doing. And I'm talking about big, massive areas. I've seen some videos of players literally flying across the whole grid almost. So yeah, I'm definitely going to cover that more, and it looks like it's going to be a nice addition to my single player Let's Play. If I start a single player gameplay now, get myself built up, get myself a little ship or a little fleet, and then by the time these changes come in, I'll have some excitement and some more challenges to take on. So good stuff. Let me know what you think about wild pirate encampments or WPEs. I think the idea of adding this to the official network would still go down well too. It means that when they do a fresh server wipe for whatever reason, or maybe there are islands that players have left, there'll still be a bit of a challenge in taking over a new land, which makes it a bit more realistic rather than, hundreds of grids, hundreds, thousands of islands. that have absolutely no difficulty on them other than maybe just the wildlife, which can be difficult, but this makes it another level. Obviously that's going to need a big balancing, and they're obviously testing this in single player non-dedicated before releasing it to the official main network. On top of that, ISO Blackwood is about to launch as well. I've been excited for this one. I think originally this was meant to come out in June, but it does look like they've had to put it back a bit more. But it is going to be ready. So ISO Blackwood is made by the same person, mod team, that made the ISO Crystal Isles mod. It's a standalone map. You can add it to your non-dedicated server lists, and basically one of your grids will become this whole map, this whole island. I do believe it is a mixture of a large island and maybe a few smaller ones. It's basically meant to be a sort of single player experience or a dedicated experience for you and your friends to just jump on and play. Explore the heart of the jungle or settle in rolling farmland. Silent eddies run before your boat as you make your way through the slick reeds of the mire. Wade through thick green waters teeming with dangerous creatures, rare plant life and the occasional gorgon to find buried treasure and lost corpses. Approach the ancient serpent boss Anathicon if you dare. For those who are not familiar with Blackwood, this is not something we'll be sorting specifically on our official network, as it was designed and intended to be used for single servers as an example of a mod map that could be hosted unofficially. This specific map will be set up so that you can still enjoy all the mechanics that Atlas has to offer whilst hosting it as a standalone server with no database setup required. I'm looking forward to this one. This is what I've actually been keeping tabs on Atlas for. In all honesty, the game had kind of sailed away from me a little bit, but I like the idea of playing on just one single map, one single server, and opening up that server to fellow ratbags or YouTubers. So I expect to see that come in. I will still set that up, and I hope we can do something like put this on the single player game. That would be pretty cool if we could actually have this on our single player world. It does seem like it's more of a boss hotspot. It's going to be a challenge with the bosses it's got on it, but for sure this is what I'll be looking forward to when it launches later on this month. There is some other news as well. They've got a brand new gun, the 6P shooter. It's actually called the Hydra 6 shooter pistol. It'll have 6 shots before reloading, but it's not going to be as strong as a flintock. And although it's quite small, at least it's something that's coming as well. I'm pretty sure they'll probably do another live stream showcasing some of this stuff before they launch it, so expect me to cover that too. And that is pretty much it, other than some patch notes for some of the stuff they've been doing lately. They're trying to balance exactly how to tackle claim flags. Basically, players have been putting them on high pieces of land, and so it means that other players have got even more difficulty trying to claim areas because the flags are just way too high. So they basically said that they tried to implement a maximum height for flags to be placed, but it doesn't necessarily work for all islands, so they're going to revisit that again. They've also added fast decay to hopefully get rid of abandoned buildings and structure spam, and they've got a brand new one today that you've got a new measure. So if you're a settlement owner, you can raise all existing structures on the island. So if you get the island from someone else, you want to get rid of all their structures before you start building, you could possibly do a raise. You'll have 12 hours to do so from the time that you become the new owner, and it's a one-time only. It will destroy all structures on the island, including their own, and it can only be used in peacetime. It will notify everyone on that specific grid, as well as log in any companies that had wiped structures on that island. They've recently added a silo so you could feed your crew members a lot easier, basically putting berries and gold in it so that it would pay your crew members. And they changed how crews work. You can have crews who are basically stationed, so they're not costing you lots of resources. You only take them out when you need them, and apparently that helps with performance as well. They've also adjusted, or still working on, how crew can repair your boats. If you're running around on your own and your crew are repairing stuff, they would use literally every resource the minute one of your ships starts decaying slightly. But they're trying to do that now. They've added an idle function, so your crew members won't necessarily go ahead and repair everything straight away. So there we go. Good stuff coming to Atlas. It's going to be a long road. They've still got a lot of changes to make and just a lot of content to add for players to maybe come back and trust the game. But the players that have been playing this game are giving it a positive reception, mostly or majority of. And these changes they're making, I think, bode really well for the future, particularly for console players. Even more, I'm really starting to believe that it's going to launch pretty well. We know they've said it's going to come to Xbox, and I'm still not predicting that's going to happen until September or October time. But these types of things are features that a lot of console players would be asking for specifically. So yeah, I am going to jump into Atlas. Stay tuned for that information about the Blackwood server map. It will be open to everyone. So if you do want to come and join on my server once it's live and running, you're more than welcome to do so. So until next time, ratbags, I will see you on the seas perhaps.